Hi there and welcome to Cappuccino Conversations, where we talk about innovation. In particular, at the moment we celebrate the upcoming 5th Innovation Summit, South African Innovation Summit, which is going to be held on the 28th, 29th and 30th of August in Bryanston in Johannesburg. We're talking to some of the speakers, and I'm thrilled today because I have Andrew Hutchison with us from T-Systems. And I'm going to ask you right away in terms of the session that you're going to talk about at the summit. What does your session entail?
Okay, thanks. Our session is going to look at how organizations can use ICT for innovation. And I think ICT and technology are big enablers of change and much of the evolution and revolution that we're seeing currently with the way that people live and work is around technology. So it's really to try and assist companies to see what can they do with the technology to make their businesses grow and to operate more efficiently, and perhaps to create a more intimate experience with their customers as well.
Great. So certainly, I mean, as a multinational, I mean, T-Systems is right across Africa. You guys must see a lot of fantastic innovation happening right across the continent. And I wanted to ask, you know, often people compare innovation that happens here in South Africa to something that I think we're as low as something like 50, number 52 on the innovation index. How do you perceive innovation to be in Africa, in South Africa?
I mean, it's interesting for us as an international organization. We are part of Deutsche Telekom, which is the largest operator in Europe and one of the largest operators in the world. So within the organization, we have a lot of interaction with our parent organization in Europe. And I've worked on a number of projects with our so-called T-Labs in Berlin, which is the research and development entity of the Deutsche Telekom group. And we've got various other innovation hubs over there. And exactly as you say, you know, the challenge for us is how do we bring those things that have been developed there into the local context and help organizations to exploit those. So I think some of the things we find we can easily bring and just put them into the operational things that we're doing. But in the African context, they're also quite special attributes of the environment that we operate in. And so what works in Europe and what is successful there is not necessarily going to work.
So it has to come with a deep understanding, obviously, of what happens here.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think also conversely, from the South African and African markets, many things have been pioneered or also adopted early. And if I think of things like prepaid electricity or prepaid mobile phones and contracts, or rather not contracts, but using prepaid mechanisms. A lot of those have been implemented very successfully in South Africa and in Africa. Whereas in Europe, you know, maybe it's not such a prerogative to actually try and to put something like that in place. And then another interesting thing is that in some instances, I think in the African environment, we have almost leapfrogged other sort of, maybe you call them first world economies and countries, whereby we've gone straight to mobile solutions or straight to things like digital television or digital mobile phones. Whereas in other organizations and countries, they've invested in analog technologies, which have then not been so easy to move out of.
That's right.
So, you know, things like mobile internet access in South Africa, we have this interesting situation that we have many more mobile internet users than we do fixed line or DSL users, as you may find in other countries. So, you know, so those are some of the dynamics that we find at play.
Magnificent. And this is the kind of information you're going to share during your session, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Tell us about, I mean, in terms of what's interesting is a lot of companies are obviously going to send 3-4 different delegates. So what kind of audience target would you say should be coming to your sessions as well? Top management, middle management, I mean.
Well, I think, you know, technology can play a role at different levels in the organization and in different channels, if I can call it that, and parts of the business. So a lot of what we do, you know, some of it could be enabling the actual systems of an organization, which might be of interest to your operational people, your chief operations officer, your chief financial officer, who's got to actually run the engine of the business.
That's right.
But on the other hand, you know, there's also things like the marketing aspects of the business. So if a large organization has to advise their customers of a sale or of an outage or whatever it is, increasingly it might be appropriate to do that via Twitter or via some sort of an online mechanism. So the question that I said at the beginning of how can organizations leverage ICT for innovation, I think is quite broad. Absolutely. And your salespeople, again, might be engaging with customers in completely new modes.
Absolutely.
Could be via internet, web-based channels. Could also be SMS-based or whatever it is. So I think there's quite a revolution in the business, both on the front end and the back end. And the front end is really very much around social media and intimacy and working with customers to try and create that sort of prosumer profile as opposed to a consumer, which people speak of.
Yes.
And then on the back end, you've got this whole virtualization that's happening with things like cloud computing, saying to organizations, don't go and put in your own data center and servers and have a whole lot of capital expenditure. Rather look to specialized organizations who can host these things for you in the cloud as we speak about it. You don't ask somebody, or someone would not say, I want to install my own Facebook, on my PC at home. Yeah. You just innately, use it wherever you are from your mobile device.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of dynamic that I think we'll be addressing, and trying to share some of our experiences with the people that participate.
Massively interesting. I mean, it sounds fantastic, and it's just so broad. I'm also wondering, I mean, obviously we're talking about innovation and open innovation, people sharing, so there's also a huge opportunity for people to network. And at this stage, I just want to tell our viewers watching as well, if you follow the link right now on the screen, you can go online onto the Summit's website, and you can obviously make contact with speakers beforehand and start conversations, because networking, we spoke earlier on, is a very important part of this as well.
Yes.
So people could be looking forward to network. Is there some stuff that they can prep before they come to your session? Is there some information they can give you?
Well, certainly from our organization's point of view, through our corporate website, which is tsystems.com, t-systems.com, there will be links, or there are links to some of the work we're doing around intelligent networks. And that specifically talks a lot about the automotive innovations that we're working with some of the car manufacturers on, healthcare innovations where medical records and treatment techniques are being explored. And then thirdly, also around energy, smart grids, smart energy. So I think that some of the attendees at the summit will be from those industries.
I'm sure.
And just to come back to your point about open innovation, one of the things that our organization has done in Germany is that we provide like the equivalent of DSTV in South Africa. They call it T-Entertain. And what they've tried to do is to create this as a gateway into the house. So in terms of open innovation, there are interfaces by which other providers and software developers can actually use that home platform to do other things. So it could be a medical system which for an elderly person might monitor their movement in the house and just track the fact that they are still okay and haven't fallen or anything, or remind them to take medication or whatever it is. So in terms of open innovation, I think even our organization as a telecommunications company is saying, let's create an enabler that also allows other organizations to bring their specialization and plug it into our network and to do complementary activities. And I think the same things are true in the automotive space.
I wanted to ask about that. You've got to tell us more about that. That sounds very interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the automotive is definitely something that at different levels we are looking at. I mean, one is around the navigation and making sure that logistic fleets, for example, are moving around as optimally as possible. So we did a project with DHL in Germany where instead of them delivering packages to people's homes, they actually set up sort of drop boxes, you could say, in various locations. And they estimated a saving of in the order of something like 3 million kilometers per year that they saved from their transport going to people's houses to deliver things, but also of people having to go and then maybe they couldn't collect what they needed to and having to go back later. So this was some sort of an estimate, of improvements. So you've got your routing on the one hand, and then on the other hand, the actual vehicle itself. The Deutsche Telekom slogan is called Connected Life and Work. And that's really what all the innovation activities within the company are striving to do. So they talk about connected life across multiple screens. So when you go into your home, you should be able to carry on listening to the song and or the radio station or having the call that you were having. When you move into the office space, maybe you again need to move onto a different screen.
Kind of seamless
but try
integration.
to keep, and of course in the car you need to have things like hands-free capability and heads-up displays and whatever they are.
Just what you would expect from German technology. That's fantastic. That's wonderful. You also alluded to greening and to alternative energies. Do you want to mention a little bit about that? It sounds very interesting.
Yes, we have had a test set up of various things around green ICT in our organization for a number of years. And a couple of the interesting things we've done is that we have a biogas fuel cell powering our data center in Munich, or powering parts of the data center, I should say, to speak correctly. And we've taken a number of our South African customers to see this and to see how you can power data centers using alternative technologies.
Fantastic.
One of the things that I found interesting when going on one of the tours was that after you flick the switch to start generating electricity with this thing, it takes 3 days before you actually get any power coming out of the biocell. So it's not an instant type of electricity, but obviously what we're trying to see is what does it mean to manage machines with a feed that is not your typical sort of mainstream power grid. Yeah. And then we also have a joint initiative with Intel called Data Center 2020, where we look at how do we improve the power usage of data centers specifically. Because data centers are huge consumers of
large
power.
machines.
And the cooling and so on. They talk about the power usage efficiency is the ratio of what the power is that is required for the machines alone versus the ratio, what is required for the whole facility as a whole. And the idea is to try and bring that down, so that you're not overburdening your machines with huge requirements for cooling and everything.
That sounds fascinating. I'm sure that it's going to be a fantastic talk. Thank you for taking the time out. We really appreciate it, and it sounds like it's going to be amazing. Good luck with the session, and we can't wait to see it. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. And if you're going to check out online as well, of course, there's a fantastic competition that the Innovation Summit will be holding. So check out the Facebook details, post any idea that you have, take a picture of it, tell us about it, and make sure that friends start voting for it because there's some fantastic prizes. Thank you. This is all for Cappuccino Conversations. Until another time, goodbye.